the different sections of Norway are very different from one another, like Eastern Norway versus Western Norway and Northern Norway, and they each have their own individual culture, it seems. If I were to take all of the cities and put them into one and describe them, I would say that it's very modern, up-to-date, very clean. I get a very big feeling that it's just very clean and orderly in Norway. Their transportation systems are excellent. For example, they have the Bybane, which is the city train in Bergen that goes through most of the city and to the church or to the main city or even to your apartment. That would just run right through town. Or for example, in Oslo, you have many different methods of transportation. You have the trikk, which is like the city tram, which is much like the Bergen Bybane. But you also have the subway. And then my favorite way to travel in Oslo was with the bysykler, which are the city bikes. And we could get anywhere the most quickly with those city bikes, where they have a certain station that you would use a card and unlock the bike to wherever you needed, and there'd be another station waiting there, and you would just lock your bike there. And it would register that you had taken your bike and then delivered it somewhere else, so you weren't stealing it. And a lot of people use that system, and it worked very, very well for us. Another thing about the cities is that they are generally quite small compared to New York or Los Angeles. I've heard Oslo described as the biggest small town you've ever been into. And it feels like that. It feels close and comfortable there. When it comes to crime and safety in Norway, it is one of the safest countries out there. Norwegians themselves believe very strongly against violence in general, and so you can be very severely prosecuted for performing any kind of violent act at all. They take it very, very seriously there. And I recall going and knocking on doors, and we'd just be walking around. It'd be probably 7:30 or 8 p.m. at night, and then we'd have just like a little girl just walking past, just playing in the snow by herself in the middle of the night. That would never happen in Southern California, where I'm from. And so it was a very big surprise to me just how safe it was in Norway. Norwegian houses are generally very colorful, and they're beautiful, and Norwegians like to take care of their homes and of their gardens. Generally for work, it really depends on where you are. So for example, in Western Norway, in the cities of Bergen and Stavanger, my favorite areas, they work on, what are they called? Oil rigs. They work on oil rigs. And so they'd be gone for 3 or 4 weeks and be home for 3 or 4 weeks, gone for 3 or 4 weeks, and so forth. And they do very well with that money. But on their 3 or 4 weeks off, they would take it, mountain biking, road biking, swimming, going camping with their family. And yeah, they have a very comfortable, enjoyable lifestyle. The Norwegian personality is very interesting compared to the American personality. They seem to be more to themselves and very reserved, but because of that, they have a very high level of respect for one another. I do recall trying to make friends with some Norwegians, and at first it would generally be difficult, but once I finally got over that, those Norwegian friends became some of the most trustworthy and honest and loyal friends that I have, even to today. They very much value their friends and their connections, and they do not want to mistake that or make any mistakes towards that person. And so they value their free time greatly, which I think is very valuable. They use their free time very wisely in spending it with friends and family and loved ones, where I typically see American personalities being the workaholics or focusing too much on this or that, but they tend to focus on those things that are most important to them. And their culture in general allows them to do that. Their work lifestyle is fairly relaxed, and so they take advantage of their vacations quite a bit, which is great. And I would be so surprised that they could still live their lifestyle and be gone for 3 to 6 weeks. But they'd go with their families and just have the best time of their lives wherever they were. Norwegians value honesty very highly, and respect of one another, which I found very refreshing. They don't tell you one thing and then mean another thing. They tell you how it is. And I very much appreciated that about their culture. Again, they strongly value peace, nonviolence, and being a very peaceful people. So much so that they have no guns allowed in the whole country. Even the policemen have to call their authorities in order to unlock their guns in their cars to use them for whatever reason. When it comes to holidays and traditions, okay, the biggest holidays in Norway are Easter and Christmas. And New Year's is pretty big too. If you think of an American 4th of July, that is a Norwegian New Year's. I can remember trying to go to bed on a New Year's night and the fireworks would be going constantly for hours and hours and hours. Luckily I had earplugs so I could sleep through it, but it'd bring back memories of 4th of July. Their New Year's would. Easter, they typically celebrate Easter for a whole entire week. They have a week off of school and work to go to their hytte, which is their cabin up in the mountains, where they would go as a family and go skiing and hiking and enjoy the sun that had just come up after the long dark winter. And they would normally have these candy bars during that time called Kvikk and they are the closest thing I can compare it to is an American Kit Kat bar. And whenever you open them, on the inside of the wrapper, they have hikes. And so you could explore the different hikes that they were telling you about in Norway. Another thing they would eat during Easter time would be a soda called Solo. And it's like an orange soda. I didn't like it very much personally, but everyone else loved it. Now Christmas is a very big deal there as well. They celebrate 2 days before Christmas, the day before Christmas, which is the big one, the day of Christmas, and then between Christmas and New Year's, all of this time is set apart for celebration. And so the 23rd of December is called Lille Julaften. Oh, nope, my mistake. That's not it. Lille Julaften. Yeah, that's true. Okay, yeah, the 23rd of December is called Lille Julaften, which means Little Christmas Eve. And then Julaften is the 24th, which is Christmas Eve, and that is where the big celebration happens. And then Juledagen is the 25th. And so how Norwegians would generally celebrate their Christmas would be on the 24th, the big day. They would have a meal where lots of meat, dried, salty meat, and you'd gather around the Christmas table, and you'd be dressed in your very, very best. Men would wear a suit coat and a tie and a white shirt, and women would wear a very nice dress, generally old-fashioned, the traditional old-fashioned style of Norwegian dress, and is interesting experiencing a Christmas with a family that dressed up really nicely for their Christmas traditions. When you greet each other, you generally say "Hei hei" or "Hei sann." That generally means "Hey," or as a general greeting term. In English, we generally say "How are you?" or "How's it going?" very frequently, but Norwegians don't say that. If you say "Hvordan går det?" which is, how are you? They generally tell you very honestly how they're doing, because they take the question literally. Americans tend to not do that. Norwegians joke that no matter how an American is doing, even if his leg is chopped off, if you ask him, how's it going? He'll say, I'm good. Other Norwegian phrases, takk means thanks. A very common way to say thank you is takk skal du ha, which translates to thanks shall you have. Goodbye is ha det bra, which literally translates to have it good, but it's your general goodbye. Some of my favorite Norwegian phrases is after a meal. Any meal with any Norwegian ever, you can say takk for maten, which means thanks for the food. And they always respond very warmly and pleasantly when you say takk for maten. So I primarily served in the west and the north in Norway. And I generally split up Norway as the west, north, and east. All over TV and radio, they speak Eastern Norwegian. And to describe Eastern Norwegian, it sounds very sing-songy, very light. If you've ever heard the Swedish Chef from the Muppets and how he goes do-do-do-do-do-do, it's a little bit like that. I generally tried to hold an Eastern dialect because since it's on TV and radio, everyone could understand me if I spoke that dialect. In the West, they have different words for things than compared to the East. However, their pronunciation is the most difficult part, and so they take their R's and they scar them, meaning if you think of a German R, they have it back in their throat. They do that with all of their R's in the West. So that's something to get used to. Northern dialect has a special place in my heart. I served both winters up in the north, which was a difficult experience, but I have such warm feelings towards it. Northerners generally speak more slowly and more comfortably, it seems, but also it's more nasal. It's more forward in the nose. Like for example, one of our favorite phrases from the north is "I kjem fra Buda," which means I come from Buddha, but it's a very nasally, somewhat Asian sounding dialect. Yeah, that's the north. Okay, so this is probably going to sound terrible because I know that all my Norwegian friends are going to be listening to this, and yeah, they're going to think that was a terrible Western dialect. I'll say, yeah, you're right. Okay, so I will say I come from Bergen in Norwegian, in the three dialects. Okay, so in the Eastern dialect, I would say Jeg kommer fra Bergen, which would be a total lie, because if you're from Bergen, you're very proud of your dialect. If you're actually from Bergen, you'd say, Jeg kommer fra Bergen. I'll say that again, just in case. Jeg kommer fra Bergen. And then in the north, you would say, Jeg kom fra Bergen. Jeg kom fra Bergen. That's close enough. Yeah. North dialect, they chop their words in half, it seems. It's a little lazier, for example. Like if I were to say, Jeg kommer fra, which means I come from, that is the Eastern dialect. But in Northern dialect, they would just say, Jeg kom fra, instead of Jeg kommer fra. And there was a really old man in northern Norway that he would talk about, he had a very thick fisherman's dialect. Sweetest man in the world. He was so nice. But he would talk about, ja, det var vinteren i 99, og det var 27 grader, og vi hadde 7 meter snø. He would just talk about how cold it was and the snow and the terrible fish prices. I love talking to that old man. Anyway,